I set up this little setup to paint for the Oil Painters of America wet paint out competition. All the paintings had to be done from life. And this was a new vase that I bought. I was really excited to paint it. And these roses are called Crown Princess Margareta. They are a David Austin variety. But we recently had an incredible windstorm come through northern Utah last week, and we were out without power for 3 days, and most of my rose bushes were pretty much stripped of their leaves and the flowers, but this particular bush was somewhat protected, so these were the only roses that survived the storm. So it was fun to paint these. And what I'm doing right now is just kind of massing in basic shapes, as you can see, just keeping things really simple and basic with the vase and trying to establish a simple light shadow pattern right now. And apologize for not being able to see the whole palette. If you go to my online membership course, inspiredtopaint.com, which I have with my good friend Shanna Coons, I have full tutorials on that site that have complete palette shots, commentary, instructions. You also get the reference image to paint along with me. We have membership options, free, basic, and all access, so check that out. So right now I'm trying to really simplify these rose shapes into like simple light and shadow patterns. And I am trying to get the color as close to what I see as possible, but I'm not worried about capturing the color perfectly. I'm more concerned with getting the value right, getting the intensity right, and getting the temperature right. So as long as my value is pretty close and the intensity and temperature is fairly close, I can make subtle changes to the color as I progress throughout the painting. So while I'm doing this, I'm always asking myself these questions. Am I too light or too dark? Am I too warm or too cold? Or am I too bright or too dull? I'm never really asking myself, do I have that color right? Because if I paint an orange and maybe I paint the orange a little bit more red orange rather than orange orange, as long as my value relationships work and the temperature relationships are working and my intensity relationships are working, getting the absolute correct color isn't as important. So I'm still kind of keeping things simple right now. There's a lot of petals within these David Austin roses. There could be, 100 petals, and I'm trying to simplify. And when I do this, I squint down. And so if I squint and I see 2 petals merge into one shape, then it gets painted as one shape. If I squint down and a few shadow petals that are in shadow look like one connected dark shape, then it gets masked in that way. And then I gradually refine. But it's really important to build that structure first within the rose and not get too caught up in all the detail. It's like building a house. You have to build the foundation first, and then you have to put up the walls, the support walls, and run, electrical lines and plumbing lines, and then you can put up your drywall. So it's the same process with what I'm doing here. I'm using a cool light to illuminate my subject. It's a 5000 K bulb, which means it's a cool light. If you're not familiar with light on how it's measured in degrees of Kelvin, and the higher the number, the cooler the light. So a 5000 degree light that which I just bought at a hardware store is considered a daylight bulb. A 6500 K bulb is really cold. A 4000 K bulb is a little bit warmer. 3500 K or 2500 K bulbs are considered pretty warm light sources. So the fact that I'm painting this under a cool light is more of a daylight bulb, gives me cool light and warm shadows. I I do tend to jump around quite a bit when I'm painting from one subject to the next. You know, I'll work on a couple roses for a little bit and then move on to some leaves or move to foreground or move to background. And the reason I do this is so that my eyes don't get accustomed to problems within a painting. So if I work on those two roses for a little bit and then I switch back to the vase, I give my eyes a break from the roses. Then when I go back to the roses, I'm more able to see problems in value relationships or drawing problems, things like that. So I do tend to jump around a bit. Painting is like putting together a puzzle, a few puzzle pieces here, a few puzzle pieces there, until the whole thing comes together. So in doing the background, I use a mixture of ivory black, alizarin crimson, and yellow ochre with maybe a touch of white to lighten it a bit. But I use this mixture a lot, and I can get a variety of colors. And basically what I'm using is three primaries, because ivory black is a blue. So I've got the ivory black is a blue, yellow ochre is a yellow, and alizarin is a red. So it's red, yellow, and blue. And depending on the ratio with each color determines the color. If more black and alizarin, I get more of a burgundy. More black and yellow, I get more green. More yellow and alizarin, I'll get more of a brown. I can manipulate that by adding a little bit of white or even blue or green. I do use my finger quite a bit to soften edges. I push things out and then I carve back in. It's kind of like a sculptor. You know, you add more than you are going to have in the finish of a sculpture, and then you gradually just carve away what you want. It's the same thing with painting. I love carving away. I am trying to create a sense of that cast shadow. I think that was an interesting shape that helped the composition. This little vessel, this little vase I bought off of eBay. I use Sabletech brushes for the most part, the 95590 series, and I do sell them on my Inspired to Paint website. So if you go to that website and click on shop and then click on brushes, you can see where I sell the brushes. I have a set that I sell. But I also use some hog bristle filberts occasionally. But for the most part, I'd have to say probably 75 to 80% of my paintings are done with these. They're a synthetic flat. So no animals were harmed in the making of the product, the brush. So again, if you are enjoying this video, I encourage you to visit my website, elizabethrobbinsart.com. Also, I have several videos on bellamuseproductions.com and my online membership course where you can just pay monthly and get access to all kinds of tutorials. It's kind of like Netflix. As long as you're a member, you have access to all of the videos if you're an all-access member. But there are several free videos on the site that you can enjoy. That's inspiredtopaint.com. Not only do you get tutorials by myself, you get tutorials by my good friend Shanna Coons, who does amazing landscapes. So again, going back to the roses and building them up a little bit more. So I hope you are enjoying this video, and I do hope that it inspires you to paint. Thanks for watching.